I once heard an old man once say that writing down one thing that you are grateful for each day is the cheapest possible therapy ever. And that stuck with me because it reminded me that writing is not reserved for writers who wants to publish and wants to be read. It's actually something much deeper than that. It helps with self-growth, it helps with reflection, and it helps with self-discovery. And it comes in all types of forms, whether it's a checklist, journaling, gratitude writing, or even jotting down random ideas. Writing shapes our way of seeing the world and even shapes the way we see ourselves. Hi friends, my name is Mohammed, and in this channel we talk about the writing process, the review books, and even explore habits and tools that fulfill the creative juices of busy people. And in this video, I want to talk about 5 things that writing can help with that's outside the genre or the process of writing stories and getting published, so that we can get back to the habit of just, jotting things down for our own sake and our own benefits. And the first of those benefits is writing helps with mental clarity. And this mental clarity comes from just, putting everything that's going on in your head on paper so that you can see it physically. And oftentimes when I do this, I don't even look back at my notes. I just write it down so that it can be free from just swimming in my head aimlessly. So for example, recently I've taken this big project at work where I'm editing this very long video that defines our office. It's just very stressful, and I have to submit drafts so that they can critique it and give me feedback. And this is on top of like my regular videos that I have to record for the office as well. And it's just taking a lot of toll on me. And so what I do when I feel overwhelmed, I journal a lot. So I will take my journal and just write down how I'm feeling that day. Or even sometimes if I'm just having a lot of ideas that are jumping into my head, then I will just write them down so that I can be free of just like that worry of, if I don't write this down, I will not remember it later. And the way to do it isn't to build writing into your calendar or into your schedule and make it a task where you have to sit down and think about it, but actually make it more accessible. Even you can take a piece of paper or even a napkin and just write down what you are thinking about. In that very moment, while you feel your anxiety is a little bit more than normal. And we all feel anxious. Sometimes we worry about the future, sometimes we have regrets about the past, and we know and we all hear the cliche of just live the moment, live your present. But in reality, as humans, we are built to think about the future. We are built to reflect on our past, and it's the way we react to the both of those things that dictate how we act in the present moment. And one way to deal with both of those things is to give them physical meaning, give them a physical existence, which is by writing them down. In the past, I used to carry this very small pocket notebook, and a lot of people do this now. I see a lot of YouTube videos of like, field notebooks, people carrying them, and it's like a pocket size. I used to carry it with a pen, and then whenever an idea comes to my head, or whenever I'm thinking about something inspirational, or whenever I'm too worried about anything, I will jot down those things. And I didn't see a lot of benefits from that. Now I just carry a note app on my phone, and I just write any idea or anything that comes to mind if I'm in the train or going to work or just taking a walk. But then I think there's a difference between that practice and sitting down with a notebook or with just a piece of paper and intentionally write down for like 5 minutes. It's a much deeper and beneficial process because you come out of it with more insight, and you come out of it with just feeling like there's a load that was offloaded or taken off of your back. And the next point is that writing helps with self-growth or self-discovery. Writing is just not about giving, like I said earlier, just a physical existence for thoughts, but it also serves like a mirror for your thoughts. This is especially helpful when you are in a situation where maybe you have a problem with someone, or you had an argument with a family member or a loved one, and you don't know whether you're right in that position or not. And even if the thing is not about being right or not, but is about understanding how did you get here, then writing the situation down, writing how you feel, writing what the other position have said and how it made you feel, gives you a way to see yourself from an outside perspective, or see yourself in a mirror, so that you can understand whether you are right or wrong. You can understand how did you get here from the, what are the symptoms of the problem, and how do you want to treat it. And it even helps you with coming up with possible solution, because you think that if you just, for example, take a walk or just sit down and like think about things, ideas will come the same way. And it's not. When you are physically writing, especially when you're physically writing on a pen and paper, what I realize is that I have access then to thoughts and ideas that I do not have access to them when I'm just thinking, because it pushes my mind beyond the comfort of, oh, I'm right in this situation, this is why this person is wrong, and just, you know, going through dialogues, internal dialogues to prove that I was right in the whole, you know, argument. But it gives me an opportunity to say, all right, this is where I was wrong, this is where I was not, and this is how I want to move on. And more often than not, it's not about let me win this situation, let me win this argument. It's about how do I figure out a way out that doesn't hurt me and doesn't hurt the other person. A very specific example, because I feel like I'm talking generalities. There was a time where I had very contentious argument with my younger brother, who's 3 years younger than me. In that time, I couldn't see, because for a very, very long time, I was the older brother. And whatever I said, he followed, and he looked up to me when we were a little bit younger. And for the life of me, when I was, you know, I was like 18 or 19, I couldn't understand why now, when he is, you know, 16, 15, he's no longer listening to me and following my lead. He is, because he was becoming his own person. And for a very long time, I was not comfortable with that. And early in my 20s, the problems got even worse, the arguments got bigger. I remember this distinctly. I like journaled about this, and I realized I was forcing him to become someone who is very similar to me, or someone that I think that he should be, and I wasn't appreciating the person that he was becoming. And this did not come as an epiphany. It came as writing the situation down and just realizing it in the process. Now, it might have, you know, been an epiphany later on, it may take longer, but for me, for some reason, that writing process, it just made it easier for me to realize where I was standing and where I was wrong and how to move on. And all of these realizations came from gratitude journaling. I would sit down every day for 5 minutes and just journal about the things that I'm grateful for, so that I do not focus about the things that are stressing me out. The third benefit is that it helps with focus and productivity. I know no one who has like a full-time job or a job that requires, that's task-oriented, that does not have a to-do list. A to-do list is a form of writing, because what it does is that it frees your brain from worrying about all the things that you have to do, and organize them in a way where, okay, this is important, this is urgent, this is not, or this is. And when you do that, then you understand that you can take each task by itself, and instead of thinking about multiple tasks at once and confusing which one is urgent and which one is important. And I think it was from Tony Robbins, or from the book The 7 Most Effective People, or Most Effective, which one it was, but then there was this diagram that I still have in the very back in my head, where is a box that's cut into 4 boxes, and then you have important, urgent, non-important, non-urgent, and then you divide your tasks into those 4 boxes, and you start with the things that are the most important and the most urgent, and then you go down the list. Another practice that I do, and I stole it from Tim Ferriss and then I enhanced it a little bit, which is what he does is that he will write down the one thing that he can do today that will elevate or make everything else that he has to do irrelevant or less stressful. And for me, then I took and I created this thing called the 3 T's, which is the 3 things, and for I would list the 3 most important things that I can do that day that will decrease my stress or make me feel that that day is a success. And what that does is that it forces me to put down on paper, on the 3 things, only the tasks that are very important, that take time and deep thinking, as opposed to, you know, like paying your credit card. I mean, you can always do that, or set an automated payment system, or, you know, things like pick up the mail. It doesn't make it to that list. What makes it is very urgent, important, stuff that make everything else less relevant. The 4th benefit for writing is that it's a creative outlet. At the end of the day, writing poetry, writing fiction, they give us a fulfillment that, you know, putting together or writing a to-do list does not. And I feel like for a lot of people who write poetry or write fiction, or just, you know, write or journal, there's this pressure that if you are doing these things, that then they're gonna become a career, or you have to publish them. But that's not necessarily the case. I remember when I was a little kid, my grandparents would recite poetry that they memorized, because, you know, I grew up in a very, you know, oral tradition country. And so what a lot of older folks would do is memorize poetry and songs from, you know, back in the village from centuries ago that their grandparents passed down, and their whole thing was for pure entertainment. It's for pure sharing with others and describing the world that they grew up in, describing the emotions and what made them them, as opposed to, oh, this is a great poem, let's figure out a way of putting it in a book and publish it so the whole world can see it. That's not always the goal. So for a lot of people, they can have that creative outlet without feeling the pressure to do something about it. You can just write it down so that it can, you know, elevate your emotions, make sense of what you are feeling, and give words to emotions that you are feeling, and a lot of other people might even feel the same. And if you feel like you want to share with others, by all means. If you don't, then keep it to yourself and maybe share with your kids later on or now. The last and fifth benefit, which I think ties to all the other ones, that writing helps with making sense of the world for us, because it does not only capture our perspective, our ideas, but it also helps broaden them. And this reminds me of a book that I read years ago called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor who wrote just things or reflections about like his living style, the power that he had, and his life as an emperor. And what he was actually writing about wasn't only his perspective and his life, but then about the philosophy of Stoicism, which is the teaching of self-discipline and worrying less about what you can't control and just focus on what you can control. He did not intend to publish those entries or those journals or those writing. He was just writing it for himself. Later on, people discovered them and saw them as helpful, and then they just published them, and now we are reading them. So for Marcus Aurelius, that writing practice helped him discover a way or a philosophy of seeing the world so that he can live as an emperor with peace. So the more you write your thoughts, your emotions, or your perspective and opinions, the more you understand yourself, and thereafter is the more you will understand how the world works in relationship to you. So there are the 5 benefits, and if you have watched this far, then I would encourage you to sign up to my newsletter, where I write down about my writing process, the mystified writing process, about books that I'm reading, podcasts I'm listening to, and just reflections how to make sense of living in this world. I will leave the link in the description, and if you enjoyed this video, you will also enjoy this video about how to overcome a writing block. If you are sitting down and you're trying to write but no ideas are coming, you can write about anything that you are feeling, or you are feeling stuck, then you're probably experiencing a writing block, something that I've experienced before. This video will help. In the meantime, keep writing, and until next time.